Welcome back to another Old Man Watches, and today I'm going to be talking about Phantom from Space from 1953. His secret power menaced the world. Phantom from Space is a cheapy 1950s science fiction movie, of which there were many. There were a lot of cheapy movies back in the days before television became a common thing in people's homes. So in the 30s and 40s in particular, and then into the 50s, how people saw movies was at the cinema. And, you went to the cinema and there were often a B feature as well as the main feature. So there was a lot of material being released in cinemas. I mean, during a big chunk of the 30s, John Wayne was basically releasing a movie every 6 to 8 weeks, to give you an idea about the kind of output that was going on. Anyway, this is the 50s, Phantom from Space. It's your bog standard alien from another planet arrives on Earth, and the humans run around trying to catch up to it and prevent its secret power that menaces the world from having any adverse effect. And I thought I'd talk about Phantom from Space and why it's a bad movie. Beyond the fact that it's tedious and boring and nothing much happens, which is a fairly common problem in cheap 1950s science fiction movies, because having stuff happens actually costs money and time and effort. But there are other reasons why this movie isn't a good movie, and why it fails, and why it's unsatisfying. And I thought I would talk about those three things, and also not just why it's unsatisfying, but also the things that they did to try and, I guess, probably try and make it satisfying, or to stretch their budget, those sort of things, and why they don't work here. So number one, cost saving is clearly a big feature of the production of this movie. So the alien in question, for 90% of the movie's runtime, wears a spacesuit, which is a fairly simple kind of gear to get from an effects perspective. There's a reason that the monster in Alien, the monster in Robot Monster, is a spacesuit with a gorilla head. Spacesuit type props, cheap and easy to make and get. And for 90% of the movie, the alien is just a dude in a spacesuit. So it's cheap to do. It's cheap to film. Eventually, the alien is forced to remove his spacesuit, and he's invisible. I'm sure, to the people who are counting the cost of producing this movie, that sounded like an awesome idea. Let's make the alien invisible. We don't actually have to worry about A, an alien that looks any good, or B, the cost of producing an alien, because even an alien that looks rubbish is probably going to cost some money. Okay, props, it saved money. It's pretty transparently an attempt to save money. They do kind of quickly say, and the reason that he hasn't used his ability to, be invisible to get away the whole time is that he needs his spacesuit to survive on Earth. So they give a reason why this naturally invisible alien hasn't used his invisibility. So fine, they acknowledge that they needed to explain this, but it's not a very satisfying ending to sort of have all of your main characters, talking about the menace of this alien that isn't even on screen. So whilst I'm sure, it seemed like a great idea from a cost-saving perspective, it's a bit unsatisfying as a conclusion of your movie to have everybody, just kind of staring at space and talking about, the alien that is obviously there and that they must defeat. Second thing, Imitation Game is how I've phrased it. So, this is a cheapy science fiction movie, and it's like, how do we set ourselves apart from other cheapy science fiction movies? And their answer is, let's steal some stuff. And in particular, let's steal from The Day the Earth Stood Still. And at the end of the movie, pose the question, we've been chasing this thing because it was emitting radiation that is harmful for humans, but, did it actually want to hurt us? We have destroyed this alien. We don't really know what /her agenda on the planet was, but it was dangerous to us, and we have destroyed it. And did we do the right thing? Have we lost an opportunity for peaceful contact? And this is obviously drawing fairly heavily from the day the Earth stood still, where an alien comes to Earth and we're all very defensive and we surround his ship with guns and tanks, and he is here to try and help us from destroying ourselves. And so it's trying to take the cachet of a good movie which came out a couple of years before this one, and steal some of its luster by imitating it. And there are movies that steal from other movies and do get something out of it. This one doesn't. It fails to do that, and the reason that it fails to do that is the third thing I want to talk about, which is foreshadowing. This movie doesn't have any, is basically the problem. It does nothing to justify a character suddenly at the end of the movie giving this speech about maybe he wasn't an enemy at all and we should have been more. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't show anything. It doesn't make any kind of effort to suggest that the Phantom from space is anything other than a dangerous thing that is out there and menacing the world. And that, and that could have been done in a number of ways in the film. It could have been done simply from a perspective of having characters talk about, if he's here to hurt us, why isn't he using his power in some more, and actually bringing this up, and then at the end it's, we had to destroy him, did we do the right thing? But we've introduced the concept earlier, and we've actually built on it. Or you could simply have had his actions at the end of the movie, or in the last 20 minutes of the movie when he's sort of finally trapped, give some kind of indication that he wasn't actually hostile, so that the audience can twig to, hang on a second, are we actually the good guys here? Are we attacking a threat that doesn't exist because we believe it's a threat? Movie fails to do that. It just has a guy in a suit running around with people chasing him. It all plays it very much straight as, alien infiltrator needs to be stopped, until right at the end when suddenly everybody's like, ooh, did we do the right thing? And it doesn't work because of that. You need to set stuff up earlier in the story. It's this movie is kind of like the inverse Chekhov's gun law. So Chekhov's gun law is if you show a gun in the first two acts of the movie, it better go off in the third, or first two acts of a story, the gun needs to feature in the third act in some way. This is kind of like the reverse, which is that if you have somebody pull out a plot twist or a plot point or an item that is important to your movie's overall message or story, don't do it right at the end of the movie out of nowhere. What a twist! It's not a twist when you just kind of have a character suddenly say, oh, maybe something else was going on. We never engaged with this at all before now, but suddenly I want to give you something to go home and think about. No, it doesn't work. Do some foreshadowing. Create the possibility of interpreting the movie in the way that if you want to create ambiguity, create ambiguity. Don't just have a character say, was this ambiguous? Maybe. It doesn't work. It's bad filmmaking. It's not unexpected from a 1950s cheapy science fiction movie that it be bad filmmaking. But, the point of these videos is to talk about why these stories didn't work. And this story doesn't work because it fails to set up its kind of big moment before it has it. And obviously, it fails to have an alien in a movie about an alien invader. Which, I'm sure it saves some dollars. But even a bad suit, would have been better than an invisible alien from a perspective of at least giving us something to look at. So that's why this movie. Those are some of the reasons why this wooden acting, slow place. All those other things are also there. It's a boring film, but those are some specific things because the film is boring. Just tells you that I thought it was boring. It doesn't tell you what was not working, in my opinion. And I think these are some of the things that contributed to its boringness. Next time I come back, I'm going to talk about another movie that brings a whole lot of Imitation Game, actually, but is, despite being a terrible movie, far more entertaining in my eyes. And that is the Italian science fiction sensation Star Crash. Oh man, I love this terrible, terrible movie. And I'm looking forward to talking about it. So that will be a fun one to do next time. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and catch you in the next one.